Thanks, everyone. Pleasure having a wonderful panel here today. Uh, as we progress and take you with the current, so the thought is take you to the current state where we are today. What are the highlights? What are the challenges industry has faced over the years? What we see in the near or the medium term, the key technology interventions which are happening, and the evolving business models for the industry. That's a thought how we want to spend the next 1 hour. But before we get into a detailed conversation, I'll request all the panelists to share a quick introduction of theirs so that the context in which each one of us speaking becomes very clear.
Hello. Thank you. It's a privilege to join such an elite panel here and a wonderful audience. My name is Amit Saxena. I'm taking care of sales, B2B sales at Kinetic Green. And earlier I was associated with Battery Smart as a growth head. And I have some 4 to 5 years of exposure to this great industry, which is known as two-wheeler, three-wheeler and all. So thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dhirendra, and thank you for this opportunity to be a part of this panel discussion here today. So, I am heading the two-wheeler and three-wheeler business in SKF India Limited, and I have also been associated with setting up the Center of Excellence for two-wheeler in India for SKF India. So, looking forward to a good conversation now. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pranshu Gupta. I represent Track and Tell. We are a manufacturer of automotive electronics, and we are a tier 1 to a couple of OEMs in India.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ravi Agrawal. I represent Vector Informatic India Private Limited here. So, Vector is a solutions provider for automotive industry in terms of software and testing solutions, which are widely used across the industry. And I am part of the automotive industry for 16 years, working across segments. And today we would like to, as part of this STEAM panel, so my role would be to try to balance what we want to provide into the market and how that becomes relevant for the market. Thank you.
So, thanks everyone for the introductions. As we move forward, the key first area we want to talk about is the current state of the industry. What are the highlights where how we have reached to this state which we are today? What were the key challenges? How the industry tried to resolve them? I want each of the panel members to share their thoughts and enrich the audience here.
Sure, thank you. See, the real revolution started with the Reliance Jio coming in with the 4G chips. And they started giving us the data to use it as a platform to introduce a lot of applications and a real-time intelligence. After then, we can see there was a surge in the startup ecosystem because everything was dependent on the real-time communication or the connectivity. And the same thing worked for two-wheeler and three-wheeler ecosystem also. So when they got themselves connected with the real usage other than the social usage, then a surge in two-wheeler and three-wheeler community also was seen. Yeah. So here, in fact, there is a long way which we traversed after the introduction of GPS devices, IoT devices, and other communicable devices in the two-wheeler and three-wheeler ecosystem, along with the mobile interface of the app ecosystem of various kind of operators. So here we can have an analogy that if a person is managing some 20 or 30 vehicles, he can easily manage with a phone call or with a direct communication. But if he need to manage more than 100 or 200, he cannot control it by simple phone calls or anything else. He need to have data usage or data intelligence for that. So I would like to start my thought process with this statement that the real disruption has just started with the data intelligence in two-wheeler and three-wheeler segment. Over to my other panelist.
Yeah, thank you. I will continue with what you said actually. The revolution in two-wheeler industries, I would say, yet just beginning today. Nobody was expecting, kind of electronics coming into two-wheelers probably. It was more of a commuter segment just for the need. But, with the start of mobiles and, smart mobiles, I would say, the expectations from the consumer is going more towards being technically savvy on also the way they commute today. So I see this lot of integration between electronic technology and mechanical integration. That's where the industry will eventually move. Too early probably to say for two-wheeler segment in terms of artificial intelligence, but definitely I see a lot of future there. A lot of AI related requirements will definitely come up from the consumers, and that's where I think all of us would need to step up and see what can be done in this field in a much bigger way.
So I'll just continue on the data part of it. So we manufacture these IoT devices which have a 4G SIM card in it. So I'll give two examples. One, our device is the only connected part in a vehicle. Everything else in the vehicle is disconnected from the internet. Ours is the only thing with a 4G SIM card. So we are the ones that are transferring data. So a lot of you are aware of GPS trackers, and typically GPS trackers will give you the position, the GPS coordinates, the speed, and time, and few other parameters. But what OEMs are doing is they're capturing roughly 300-400 pieces of information. So for example, if you're going uphill on a scooter, there's the TPS, which is the throttle position sensor, right? On a EV, for example, they want to know not just the state of charge of the battery, but also the state of discharge of the battery, the current consumption, the RPM of the motor, the ambient temperature, the temperature of the motor, and a bunch of other parameters. And with today's technology, we are able to capture all of that information, upload it to the cloud, and then that can be used for the analytics. The same device, the same data is used for warranty claims and fraudulent warranty claims, insurance claims, right? And then if you look at the upper end vehicles, cars have a lot of ADAS. Even some of the upper end two-wheelers are now coming with ADAS. So for example, I've heard of people where in Delhi fog, where visibility is very low, people are using ADAS to figure out, and being able to drive, whether drive or ride. Because your visibility is low, but the sensors are able to detect whether there's an obstacle ahead of you. So if you have the guts, the vehicle can go faster than the human thinks they can go. So this is where people are starting to use technology to push themselves and the vehicles beyond the typical limit that one would use without technology.
Thank you. That was a point very well put. From my point of view, what is the current state of the industry? So we started with connected vehicles, bringing basic connectivity into the vehicles, and then it started migrated to smart vehicles, where this connectivity is being leveraged to add new value propositions to customer, to OEMs, as you mentioned, in terms of data collection, and also providing new features to the users. Especially in terms of OTA has been, over-the-air update has been one of the main drivers of adding connectivity, because it solves a lot of challenges, both for the users as well as the industry. Now, AI, when we talk about AI has not been prevalent on the user side as of now, but mostly on the data collection. And what do we do with the data? That data analytics, AI is going to play a big part. What kind of insights we can get? For example, you mentioned the use case where the throttle position sensors. So these data points today, they are being extracted from this. But AI can also help identify driving patterns, driving behaviors, okay? So that the user's pattern can be used to customize the products for the end user. That is where AI is going to lead us, both from the OEM point of view as well as from the user point of view.
So, I mean, we talked about AI, we talked about ADAS and connectivity. I want to have your thoughts, a base before we dig deeper there. See, predictive maintenance has been there in discussions for long, right? The key challenge was, does the mechanical components offer you a complete design knowledge to be able to predict the failures for future, right? As per you, where the two-wheeler industry stands in terms of predicting a failure in the vehicle, and that's where I want to have a view that what do you think is where we are today in terms of predictive maintenance?
So, predictive maintenance, I would like to look at predictive maintenance in two parts, okay? Uh, where already known use cases are there, okay? And identify the pattern, and if we see the same pattern emerging for any upcoming vehicles based on the usage data that we collect through connectivity, we can have pre-scheduled checks already sent to the service centers. That is already happening today, and that's where the data is being leveraged, okay? And the second part is also how this data or the feedback is going fed back to the product development. For example, if you see a certain product, mechanical product failure on a number of vehicles, are we able to extract the data of those certain vehicles and see in what particular use cases they are being used, so that we can design a product much better? So both for the short term, for predictive maintenance, but also for predictive product development. That's what I would like to call it.
So I would like to say that predictive maintenance is still at a very, very nascent stage because we are not having enough smart component inside a bike or a scooty. But there are few things which we have taken care as an OEM. We have a very, very prestigious customer of ours who is having a demand of tens of thousands vehicles at a certain period of time. So what we do, in fact, we check on multiple aspects of that with the help of smart devices. And we try to take care of vehicle trajectory when they are riding a vehicle, state of charge. If the vehicle is stopped sometime, suppose there is I'm bringing a real-time example over here. Suppose there is a festival and some pizzas are to be delivered in a particular city, and the volume quantum can be served only with the help of 3,000 vehicles. And here my customer is having 4,000 vehicles, but still, can he have best of his 3,000 vehicle which can serve his entire demand? So what we can do in that? Three, four factors are there. First of all, if a vehicle is there and if it is not having enough charging, then we need to generate the alerts that your charging pattern is not right. We need to have this much of charging at this point of time. At least this much of charging is needed here. And that can be integrated with multiple grids. The other point, if the vehicle has shown a inconsistent behavior in stopping or in reducing its speed at certain period of time, that is being captured. That can be intimated, and this can be integrated with the efforts of a mechanical team which is present over there. So this is another behavior. The other kind of behavior which we find out here, if the vehicle is been ridden by a different driver. So if they are having the vehicles, but some other kind of drivers are riding them who are not so efficient, this is one alarm which is being generated to them. The other point, geofencing and theft alert. Because whether they are having a lot of vehicles, but if the vehicles are not available to them, then this is going to cause a lot of problem. So addressing the business needs and optimizing the vehicle as per them, and to tell the situation or tell the solution. The data can be generated, but who is going to make use of that data? That is very, very important. And if we are integrating that data with the real intelligence, that what is to be done by that operator or with the service team, then only this problem can be solved. So this is my view.
Yeah, Priyanshu, please. Yeah.
So I would like to add one point about preventive maintenance. We've talked about it for so many years, but the issue is also cost. And I'll take a very simple example, brake pads and disc rotors. As you brake, everybody knows the brake pads are getting used. It is friction that is stopping the vehicle. So the brake pad and the rotor, they are, due to friction, the thickness of the lining keeps on decreasing over time. And pretty much everybody knows when you send your vehicle for repair, they will say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is your total bill. Right? When you drop off your vehicle, they don't know this. After they open up and they say, 10,000 rupees more. Now, with an IoT device, why can't we figure out the thickness of the brake pad lining left? It's not impossible. The technology exists today. The problem is cost. People don't want to spend. Consumers are not asking for it, so OEMs are not putting it, but you could put a sensor on all 4 tires on a 4-wheeler or all 2 tires on a 2-wheeler that is somehow measuring the rotors, the discs, the brake pads, and send that data not only to the OEM and the service center, but also to the consumer app, showing your brakes are down to 60%, your brakes are down to 30%. Then the consumer will not have the feeling of being fleeced by the service center. This technology exists today, but it's a cost issue.
Now it is a predefined frequency, you have to replace it. every
Right now it is
service.
kilometer based.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I'll just add to what you said. So generally bearing is considered just, to reduce friction. But actually the bearing can do much more than just reducing friction. So there is already technology available, bearings embedded with sensors, which can do predictive maintenance. It gives you real-time data of the friction. It gives you real-time data if there are any wear. It gives real-time data of certain vibrations, increase in temperatures. So everything is possible at a bearing level also. Now, important thing is cost and affordability for adoption. That is critical. So you will see these technologies already adopted maybe in cars today or in high-end motorcycles, for example. Now, adaptability on a consumer vehicle segment is something that we need to work on. Now, like you said, for a brake pad, now bearing friction or rolling resistance for that matter is not only just about it, it also impacts your vehicle efficiency. Now you talk on an EV platform, mileage per charge is extremely critical. And if your bearings are already worn out, you are actually straining the battery and you are reducing your mileage there. Same goes for a gasoline engine as well. So, but people really don't look at when do I want to replace the bearing unless it completely fails and then they go to the workshop. So these are technologies available, but adoption is of course cost driven. So that's something.
Is there a work which is happening in that area in terms of bringing a sensor to a bearing and it can come in future? Would you share some insights there?
Censored bearings are already existing.
Already there, yeah.
They are existing. So as I said today, if you ask me from a technology challenge on this front, it's cost. Technology is there. Now, how do we make it affordable is probably the challenge that we need to work on.
Perfect. I think that was wonderful. Sharing the thoughts on predictive maintenance has been a talk for long. It's still long way to find its right merit with the cost being optimally reduced. The other point which I want the panel to throw insights on is, while two-wheeler and three-wheeler, there are multiple segments which have evolved, right? Every segment has a different viewpoint for the customer. A normal riding segment, a premium bikes, last mile delivery, last mile connectivity, and many startups are also, and even the traditional companies are working, creating products specific to a segment as well. So which segment do you think is the most promising one, and why do you think would be the most promising one?
So I think the main revolution in this two-wheeler and three-wheeler industry is happening due to e-commerce and the ease of purchases by the customers. And I've seen this happening. Earlier, NCR was having some 20,000 TV vehicles 4 years back, and now it is having more than 2 lakh. And new vehicles are coming, last vehicles are going, other vehicles are going. And due to these pollution norms and all, we are adopting it much faster way. So I would like to quote some example here. So suppose there is a fleet operator which is riding on two-wheeler and three-wheeler, and he is struggling with the economy of scale. What he need to do? He need to take 1 month at least subscription or 1 month at least rental he need to pay to the OEMs or to the lease operators or anyone else. And some days in a month he is having business, some days in a month he is not having business. So that is creating a problem to him. What he is looking for to have the more utilization of the fleet when he is having a fixed quantity of work. So the future time is coming for the platform. Please imagine a scenario in which a delivery has to happen to a particular e-commerce partner. A driver is also available, and there is a margin of some 50 rupees. Then the vehicle charges would be 10 rupees, 20 rupees would be the operator charges, and 20 rupees would be the rider charges. And that would be on an order base. So these kind of innovative platforms will actually pave the way for the future. And what I believe personally, due to the trends, that after some time we will see very, very less real buyers of the last mile connectivity. We'll see a lot of platforms emerging, and platforms will build on the intelligence which would be provided by the data. And here, the IoT, the smart devices parts are very, very important to bring the economies of scale.
So you're saying instead of there will be aggregators in between who can give the last mile on a subscription model, so to say.
Yes, this is going to emerge very, very fast. Very, very
That's
fast.
great insight. Yeah, I'll also like panelists to open. Then if you have a view on the segment, that will be also great. Which you see is the most promising one. Maybe for you is the premium motorbike segment is the most fruitful one. But happy to have your thoughts there.
No, you're right. Actually, from that perspective, if you see, I think in the first session, also in one of the slides, there was a clear shift towards premiumization on the motorcycles. We are seeing a drop on the commuter segment also. So this also linked to the buying power today. Finances are more easily available, and from a two-wheeler perspective, if you see, it's more about the rider experience, right? That's where you are seeing a shift towards the premium bikes, and the ask on the premium bikes or scooters is also increasing, where you have requirements in terms of having something connected, maybe a Bluetooth connectivity with your panel, like your Google Maps or something visibility. So I will definitely feel I still see a very promising future where the premiumization will increase. We will see a drop, in my opinion, on the commuter segments. That drop that he showed in the morning, I think that will continue. And you will see more and more of the premium bikes coming. It's more about experience. That's what I think from a two-wheeler, people are looking for a riding experience. You see a lot of growth of these riders clubs today. It started with only the Royal Enfield in the initial stages. Today you see so many rider clubs across, and that's more about the experience of riding. So I will still think that, we will have a lot of scope in the premium segment.
Anshu, I mean, as per you, what do you think, looking from a tier one perspective, the most promising segment?
So my question to you is, when you say promising, what do you mean?
Promising means like one which sees the maximum growth in the coming future.
So I think historically the lower segment bikes, the 100, 110 cc has been the highest growing, and I feel that the low speed EVs is probably the highest growing market today. Reason being the metros and the tier ones have Blinkit, Swiggy, and all of that, and they are using these low speed vehicles. But the tier 2, tier 3 cities do not yet have these services. Blinkit and others are not so readily available. Uber Moto or motorcycle, Uber, Ola, Rapido, etc. So I think with low to medium, maybe not high speed, but at least low to medium speed vehicles is probably poised for the highest growth in terms of numbers and obviously profitability. It's a buffet model. The more you sell, the more you make. But my understanding is a lot of these low speeds are off the radar. They're not registered. And there are a bunch of imports, use and throw, use it for 40, 50, 60,000 kilometers, and then they're discarded. There's for scrap value. So maybe there is a space where somebody can say these are somewhat repairable or sturdier, so your initial cost of acquisition of the vehicle will give you a higher longevity, and maybe that's the most promising. I don't know.
Great, thanks for that. Ravi, as per you, what do you think from a tech company? is the most promising one.
So, from a tech company, what looks most promising to us, two segments where the premiumization as well as the aspirational value in the market is driving a lot of companies to have new products moving up the segment. So that's where they're putting up a lot of investment into developing new products, where a lot of demand is already there in the market. People are looking at to upgrade their products, okay? And at the bottom end, which is mostly commercial and fleet customers. So at a premium segment, the value and the growth is driven from aspirational value of consumers, and at the fleet and consumer commercial segment, the growth is being driven from a fleet operators point of view or the commercial operator point of view.
Thanks for that. I think that takes us to the next point that we see there have been a startup evolution which has happened in India, and many startups come with different products for different segments. Certain startups did very well initially, and then the legacy player caught up to the game, right? What do you think both the startups and the legacy players need to do so that there is a level playing field? Maybe not, but in terms of how the industry is evolving, which will give them their long-term visibility. Amit, you want to start? Yeah.
Why not? So legacy players are having one set distribution pattern. They are having a lot of retail outlets, while the startups are not bounded by any kind of stable distribution system. They go where the demand lies. There has been evolution of battery swapping. So multiple startups has already integrated their vehicles with the battery swapping technology, while the legacy players are still coming slowly into this because the ecosystem is yet following these. Usage of smart devices can only come if people understand them. The first thing is to educate people, is to create an awareness that these can be used in these phases. These can be used for safety purposes. I'm quoting an example. Suppose a family member is driving a bike. He is doing a tripling, means he's getting two more of his friends on his bike. He is not wearing a helmet. He is over speeding. He is going in the areas where bikes are not allowed. Multiple kind of alerts can be generated, which can be utilized by a particular family. And the same thing can be driven in a rider interface with the rider behavior. Whether any bike or vehicle is being driven outside the working hours, whether a rider is intentionally not taking a swap, even if he is having a long distance to cover, to just make an excuse. The other part, how you can make a rider an intelligent person with the help of this technology. How he can actually take care of his bike or his vehicle in a much more matured way, and he can fulfill uh, the objective of the organization. So multiple use cases are arriving. Legacy players are more connected to the audience, which is social, and startups are more connected to the audience, which is into last mile delivery. So these two different segments are very important, are having a lot of onus to create an awareness and to use the right kind of information to enable people.
Yeah, Dinesh, I mean, thoughts from you. Maybe durability still stands the key point which industry looks like, or the client or the consumers look like durability to be the first point whenever a product comes to the market. And I mean, is the choices a consumer is making in terms of tech acceptability? Would that be a driving factor where both the startups and the traditional players need to catch up and make the products equally attractive to consumers, or both will have a separate consumer base looking at tech and a durable, or say both combined together?
See, if you if you look at the difference mainly between a startup and an a legacy player, what we have seen in the industry today is a big difference in the way the products are homologated. Okay, that's a very big difference. Startups are looking for speed because they are backed by certain funding and they need to churn out and start making money out of the startup. That's not the case for a legacy player. They already are financially well set. So they have the liberty and they have the time to do a thorough evaluation, a homologation before they put the product into the market. And that's where, if you see, there were startups who came up with a lot of innovative products, but they failed somewhere down the road. Whereas the legacy players, they came up steady at a slow speed, but they really consolidated, and today they are the market leaders even in the EV space. So what is critical here for, I would say, the difference, if you ask me, the startups definitely need to, focus on homologation. The initial buy would be there because they come up with innovative ideas. Products are innovative. They bring some new technology. It's exciting for a new buyer. But then the immediate demand will immediately fade out because then they start getting into technical issues. That's, I think, somewhere the balance that a startup needs to really learn from the legacy players, and they need to focus on the homologation while having the speed. That's something that will really help the startups to really match up with the legacy players.
Thanks, Panshu. From your perspective,
Yeah,
what do you think?
I second the thought. I mean, you see what has happened in the EV industry. There were startups and now the legacy players are there. So I think for startups, they need to focus. I mean, they have a niche market and they can focus on the niche market. But to grow beyond that niche into mass markets, it's a tough battle because Indians are extremely price sensitive. So the startup has to decide if they want the mass market, then competing with the legacy is almost impossible because the legacies have the profitability to drop their prices and compete on price, because at the end of the day it will comes down to price first, features later. The niche will go for features first and price later, and so startups can play in that space forever. But yeah, I mean, to survive, quality and price matter most, and the legacy already have the ecosystem built in, with the vendors who are willing to support them versus a startup because of volumes and other reasons, even payments, on-time payments and everything else. So for a startup to be a vehicle manufacturer is, in my opinion, very tough. But for a startup to be a supplier of one or more parts like we are is still a much easier battle to solve.
Thanks for that. Ravi, from your perspective, the technology you bring in terms of validating a complete product, which is a two-wheeler or three-wheeler, right? How you're evolving to reduce the time for a startup, right? To be able to meet those durability, which makes the product as equal to a legacy product, or saves them the time and the cost in bringing the product to the market.
It's a good question because it's very challenging for startups. Okay, for example, the EV segment, when it started, there were very few players and mostly they were startups. So they had a lot of freedom to start, try new things until the legacy players started working on this segment. So now they don't have that kind of freedom or the bandwidth. So now they need to be as good as the legacy players in terms of quality and service. And also they need to have some niche value addition. Why should customers choose them? And from a technologies provider point of view, okay, so we support startups from 2 points of view, okay. First, legacy manufacturers, they have a lot of infrastructure already, okay. So you need infrastructure for testing and development, which works the first time, okay. You cannot, especially for startups, they cannot afford to have reliability and trust issues with customers. That's why we provide reliable solutions. Second, for startups, we also have a startup incubation program, okay, where we also support startups not only in terms of OEM, but also component suppliers and solution providers, so that we can also help them grow as well, okay. But I wanted to bring this point into picture, especially with respect to suppliers, startups, and OEMs. Okay, so there are a lot of areas startups are bringing innovation. Okay, and that's where legacy players have been slow to start with. So we have also seen this, and where we have also worked together with the startups and legacy OEMs to bring such solutions. So there are few areas, especially in terms of policies, how what Amit brought out. So policies are something which startups alone cannot change or influence. Legacy players and the startups need to work together to influence policies. And one of the examples is the charging standards for two-wheelers and three-wheelers, where legacy players as well as startups have come together, influence the industry to so that the Indian government adopted these standards, and now the adoption is increasing. Same thing I believe is going to happen until both of them work together at least at an industry level. They cannot work in isolation. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I think for the first topic we have covered, we thought we'll set where the content industry is, what are the challenges, what we see today. Now, moving next in terms of the near to medium term, right? And there have been discussion on multiple tech interventions which will happen, changing buying pattern. What do you think in short to medium term will be the key impacting factors for the industry? I think Amit, you can start and
Reliability of a vehicle, very very important. This time this EV revolution has just started, but the reliability and the range anxiety is still playing into the mind of a customer. Real time communication, and here my fellow friends are here, in fact, who are covering this through their intervention in the industry. So some or at some or the other point, people will go for investing into the smart devices, because if they are sticking to a manual or a very very limited source of information, they cannot bring that kind of profit which they can potentially earn when they will be using the smart devices. And I think like my fellow friends can throw some light on what kind of futuristic technologies people can adopt while using the smart devices in their vehicles to integrate their informational exchange for the economical gains.
so primarily we're talking about connectivity being the key driver for the next change in the industry, right? That's what I think you meant, right? Yeah, then from your perspective. what do you think?
I fully agree what he says. Connectivity will be one of it, and the other will be performance and reliability.
Banshu, from your perspective, you are more closer and talking in the next generation product lines on connectivity. What do you think the evaluation?
So connectivity definitely, and I think ADAS is the next thing that needs to come to two-wheelers. Two-wheelers is a huge market, so I think the cost can get spread out across that. But I live here in Gurgaon, so you see one two-wheeler hitting another two-wheeler because they are both trying to squeeze through the same space. And I think sometimes you've got a helmet hanging on the side or something or the other, and sometimes the rider forgets that he's got a bigger footprint. So a very simple proximity sensor, which will just warn him somehow, because a lot of them, when you observe people, they want to go straight, but the right blinker is on, right? I've never asked somebody or stopped somebody, why do you do that? I'm assuming there is so much dust on the dashboard, or they are not used to looking at the dashboard, so they don't realize that the blinker is on. So somehow we need to get all of this ADAS not only on the dashboard, but to the rider, whether it's through audible alerts of some sort, that there is a problem, turn off the blinker, or the proximity alerts needs to be louder, so it can cut through the traffic noise and the rider can understand that there is somebody close to him, he's going to get hit from behind. It's not always a two-wheeler, it could also be a car hitting you, right? So safety and longevity of the vehicle through ADAS somehow needs to be done. And we have done this for off-road vehicles. For off-highway vehicles, you have these stabilizer bars, and the vehicle is off the ground, the cranes and all when they're fixing traffic lights. And if you put the vehicle in the if you engage the transmission, the drive wheel or axle will start rotating. And we did this 10 years ago where we would just play an audio alert saying that the vehicle is in drive mode while it is on stabilizer bars. And this we heard from our OEM customer that, in the rural areas, the guy's dhoti would get stuck in the wheel and it would come off. Sometimes he would also get pulled next to the wheel. So, 10 years ago, we had this simple ADAS where in the cabin we had an amplifier, a 35-watt amplifier that would just play that the vehicle is in motion, right? So, if we could do it 10 years ago on a tractor and a crane, we can do it today also 10 years later on a two-wheeler. It's just, your phone has different notification sounds. It's a WhatsApp message, it's a text message, it's a ringtone, right? So simple things like that can be brought in on two-wheelers to notify the person that somebody going to hit them from the behind or something like that. Just improve safety that way.
And we were talking about AAV when we were having a conversation earlier, right? What's your take? If AAV comes in 2 years or it won't get delayed beyond 3 years, that's my take is. And two-wheelers are still not there, right? How the complete ecosystem will get integrated so that the AAV functions perfectly. Otherwise, one isolated segment that gets implemented, we won't be preventing we'll be solving the problem for which it's getting implemented. What's your view on that? Yeah.
So I think it works on cars because you're not going to fall out of the car, right? On a two-wheeler, if it just stops, your legs have to be down there to protect you. So I'm not sure how that will work out unless you also bring in self-balancing, or maybe it only works on low speeds, not on high speeds. But again, I think the first version of that has to be warning that there is something that is about to happen. The next version can be where the vehicle takes the corrective action. Right? Luxury cars today, even the Kias and other things, they will brake, but you're not. The worst that can happen is you get hit from behind, but you are still strapped into your seat with a cage around you, right? But if your two-wheeler, your low-speed two-wheeler comes to a stop from 20 to 0, right? You may lose balance and you'll fall off, and there's somebody speeding right behind. So that needs to be tackled.
That's a complexity to solve, right? Because if AV is in few segments, others don't have, still it becomes, the other biker at the end will hit the car in the front.
Yeah.
That's the case, yeah, sure. I think that's a challenge to be solved, I believe.
And then it's a cost issue.
That's a cost, yeah. Agree, yeah.
So,
Sure. Ravi, your view on that, yeah.
So just would like to continue on the same point. So AAB, what we discussed. So it is not like any solutions we can take off the shelf which is already developed for four-wheeler or another segment and can just put into two-wheelers and three-wheeler segments. So we have to look at solutions which are actually relevant and practical on the car. Okay. So AAB today, I can test, develop and integrate into two-wheelers. But whether it is actually practical on the Indian road conditions and the driving behavior, that's where testing becomes very important. Okay. And next 3 to 5 years, what we see is safety and security. Safety because the highest percentage of human loss happens in India on two-wheeler riders. Okay. And the security becoming important because as soon as already the regulations are going to be live for four-wheelers and other vehicle categories, but definitely it is going to come for two-wheelers as well. But two-wheelers, it is already important for fleet segment because what is more important for fleet segment and commercial segment is the data because they are already connected. And then a lot of data is they're being controlled remotely. So security is already very important for fleet segment. How AI we can leverage in these two use cases. So one important part for safety is whenever we are deriving the ADAS, we call it as ADAS because in two-wheeler segments it is advanced rider assistance system, and whether because the driving patterns and the road conditions are completely different, vary a lot across India, even in the same vehicle segment, especially two-wheelers. People driving on rural roads, people driving in the city, some may be driving very calmly, some ride aggressively, okay? So the same system cannot be applied to everyone. You need to have a large data set, which is already happening today, and which is going to enable a lot of value addition for OEMs in future. For example, I can have the same feature working in different way for different users because the data set is different for them. And the second part is the security part. Okay, if security is being enabled, so first part, security is becoming relevant because connectivity is there, but security is also being enabled by connectivity. If you see something, for example, you mentioned geofencing and then disabling the features, it is only getting enabled because of security. And now this becomes difficult when you have increased the number of size of fleet. For few number of vehicles, it is important. But when you have a large fleet segment, especially for commercial vehicles, then it needs to be automated. There should be an intelligent algorithm which needs to take care decisions like this. But if you have all these algorithms coming into picture, you cannot just let them go free without testing them in a very, very safe and secure environment with all the regulations being complied to. That's where testing even the AI which you are going to impact at any part of the complete ecosystem for two-wheeler and three-wheelers is very important. And that's where we also support with specific AI-based solutions, like what kind of AI algorithms you are putting into your system. You should test your algorithms. So there are a lot of large language models available in the market, open source, you can develop in-house. You already have a data set which you are collecting. You can even test different effectiveness of different LLMs for your data set, which is being more effective, tune it before you deploy. So that any features, any new technology which you're deploying on the road, it is effective on the road.
Understand that. I mean, primarily it's a user-centric design,
Yes.
looking for the product which you are targeting, and maybe it gets more refined to the segment you are targeting. If it is a last mile, maybe there would be certain interventions which will make it more compatible to the segment each one of the market players are targeting.
Yeah, so refined is the key word because once you deploy any features or any products onto the field, okay, the cost become 100x, 1000x, okay. To revoke it or to correct it, take preventive measures or corrective measures. So especially with connectivity features, it is very, very easy to deploy new features. The cycles are very fast. But at the same time, we have to be very careful because the same features, it is very easy to misuse them as well.
Yeah, I like to have the Rain's view
Sure.
also on terms of what do you think uh, in terms of the conversation we are having in terms of near to medium term, the technologies which may impact the most.
I agree with what Pranshu said. I think it is going to be more on safety. Uh, Clearly, it will be, I think both of them mentioned, it will be more on safety. Very valid point that he brought up is, the highest number of fatalities that we have today is on two-wheelers. And I think definitely the focus will be on safety.
So for your industry, which is specific product line, right? How do you see that evolution changing the product thinking at your end?
So I just touched upon, a failure on the component also is one of the reasons of a fatality actually, a premature failure. So predictive maintenance is where that will play, that you know that you're going to get into a failure mode. So you can actually take some precautions there. So technology from a component basis, I think will move more towards, censored bearings. We have a lot of product portfolios on censored bearings, which something for the ABS systems today or predictive maintenance. Again, it's all going to be about cost, but there are solutions, and it will continue to work on that platform, I would say.
I think we covered both the current state and the future state to an extent the time allows us. Anything on the business model, evolving business models in the industry, you see a quick view on that, and then I think we can open the floor for the questions.
Uh, yeah, please. So one thing, what Mr. Amit said, that for the commercial segment, we are looking at not ownership model, but subscription pay-per-use model. Okay, that is already starting in EV industry with battery as a service. Okay, so over the years, the usage pattern have changed, especially intra-city, and that can also happen at personal level. Okay, if there is a fleet of vehicle available in a society, for example, apartment complex, so people can also move to have a use per pay, a pay per use. Even for that, that is also something we can look at, and all that has been possible only with the new connectivity, smart features, and AI.
Sure. Thanks, Pranshul,
Yeah, I
from
was
your
going to say the
perspective.
same thing, subscription. You can, the cost being the stopping point where people don't want to introduce features. Um, if there was a way to figure out the subscription model, like BAS has happened. But I feel given India's system, the judiciary and all of that, subscription models, somebody to put in the the capex and implement the hardware and recover it through subscriptions is an extremely tough sell. I mean, an analogy is the US. You go to Verizon, another thing, they'll give you a brand new iPhone 17. All you need is a $50 plan for 2 month, 2 year, 3 year. You're locked into that contract and you're running around with the latest phone. But that doesn't work in India because of reasons everybody knows. So somebody has to figure that one out, which is off topic for this forum. It's not an automotive problem, but that I
It's a
believe is
regulatory
that
challenge.
business model will be a game changer.
Agree. Then from your perspective, what do you think?
I think from a technology development business model, I look at two different industries collaborating for a win-win solution. I think that's a business model that will evolve eventually. There are mechanical component industries and there are electronics experts. Now with this change that we are seeing with AI coming in, I would see a lot of these kind of collaborations between two technical experts on different fields coming together as a business model.
Sure.
To me, I think that's something that will evolve significantly in the industry now.
Agree on that. On that point, I also want to bring that if you look at global markets, there's a chassis forum in Europe which talks about commonizing the chipset across the industry so that the scale it leverages the scale and helps the industry to bring down the cost and optimize the performance. So that I think India we have still not have those forums to bring a common technology which cuts across the industry. Yeah, completely agree with you on that. Amit, from your perspective, I think then we'll.
I think like the same point is being validated by my fellow co-panelist, and there would be a use of a lot of branding and advertising revenue in this model, which will increase the cost economy of this, and this is going to evolve. This is already evolving. So now, I think like we are in consent with this point. Right?
Great. I think we had a wonderful conversation. Thanks for the panelists to be here and share your thoughts and enlighten the audience here. I'll open up the floor for any questions for the panelists if you have. Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you for the wonderful discussions and insights. My name is Pradeep. I represent Endurance Technologies. So my question was, even we don't know with which way the market is going to be. There's no assurance. But if we listen to the panel and we agree that the premium vehicles will continue to grow, the feature adoptions will be faster in premium segment, and that will probably drive the technology and slowly getting into mid to then commuter segment as and when the economies of scale happens. My question is, when we talk about data and hence the firmware part, and most of the components getting into electromechanical, where you have a mechanical supplies and a firmware or a software associated with it, how the ecosystem will evolve. That puts an additional pressure on a tier one to have these capabilities of firmware or a software to be embedded. And obviously, a lot of you also gave a partial answer to that. Partnership is the way forward. And my second quick question was on the offering side. Lot of we saw that the technology leaders, when it comes to let's say RAS as a topic, there are ZF, Conti, or a Bosch providing this platform approach where they keep the solutions ready and offer as the OEM asks for it. But there are then OEMs who go feature by feature, and then hence the vehicle integration still remains with OEMs. So, which approach you see that in the mid, let's say 2 to 3 year horizon, will evolve, and how a tier ones will have to play this game? Quick insights on this.
I think first question is clear to me in terms of the tech evolution, how this can be standardized. Second question, you said.
Second question is very simple: platform approach versus feature by feature approach. How that will
Yeah,
progress.
Amit, you want to go first and give your views on that?
Your platform approach versus feature by feature is very interesting because till now the platform adoptability is even in question. Then people need to be very, I must say, informed that what they want to choose. But really, there is a scope in feature to feature. There is a scope. Suppose there is a delivery partner whose food is getting spoiled by sudden braking or by disruptive driving by a particular driver. He can opt for a feature, which is a safe riding feature, which can restrict a vehicle only onto a safe riding. So this is one thing which can be adopted. While the platform is an overall accessibility to multiple feature. So there can be a joint model also that in a platform you are opting for few particular features where you need to pay little bit extra amount. Your your question is very very relevant to the futuristic approach for this market. So I appreciate your question.
Pranshu, you want to add being in the tech world?
Uh, I think the feature thing is already being done in the upper end cars that is there. You buy the car,
Feature on
and then you can pay extra to enable some features. Um, there's a very famous story. There was a tornado or something in Florida. Every Tesla car is standard with long range batteries. They just don't. They sell the car as standard and long range, but they all have the same battery. So when there was that evacuation warning in Florida, Tesla enabled long range mode for every Tesla owner free of cost to get out of the state. So feature by feature already exists. Sometimes you pay for a subscription, sometimes the OEM will do it free of charge. I think for a 2W, 3W, that can be done. It's a question of educating the customer that there is this thing. Every OEM will have their own platform. Every OEM will have their own nomenclature. And that can get a bit of confusion,
Can be standardized.
Right.
that's-
So whether the nomenclature is standardized, so it used to be called adaptive cruise control earlier. Now it's part of ADAS. So the nomenclature has changed. It's still the same feature. On a Mercedes, it's called a Distronic. On a BMW, it's called something else. It's still the same thing.
It's all the same purpose.
So that level of education is still lacking, in my opinion. But it already exists. It's just not in the 2W space.
Any views, Dharenji, Ravi, you have on that?
The question is especially relevant, as you mentioned, for a tier one, because tier one cannot take a decision what goes into a vehicle. That is the real challenge for a tier one. And the platform approach where the bigger tier one suppliers are already following, okay, that is driving a change what we see towards the OEMs as well, because they see the benefits of a platform approach, because on the same platform they can develop multiple vehicle models, because there's the product development cost has skyrocketed with the connectivity, electronics, ADAS coming into picture. So developing one platform which can be used for multiple product lines at one OEM, and from a tier one point of view, if I can satisfy the requirements of one platform. When the requirement for the next platform comes, can I adapt my product so that it can cover multiple platforms? Because the challenge is the development cost, not the actual hardware cost from a tier one point of view. Especially in terms of electronics and hardware, the same may not be applicable for mechanical products.
So thanks for that. And I'll just add that you can have a common hardware platform, right, which can take on receiving the features as what is needed, as what Pranshu was saying, that you can develop that common. The cost will be a bit higher than developing feature by feature hardwares, but it will solve the challenge in the long run that you use the same hardware, get the features in, and implement as needed. Yeah. With that note, I think we are running out of time. They've been seeing me to just end the session. So thanks everyone for patience listening. I hope we could excite, enrich you today. Thanks for being wonderful listeners today. Thank you for the panel as well.